Oh, yo, bro. How are the Chathams? Oh, it was wicked. Oh, this guy can actually tell you about it. Yo, bro. Yo, if I pass the camera, can you tell us about the Chathams? Oh, yeah, of course. Alright, so the Chatham Islands are pretty cool. About 800 kilometres off the east coast of New Zealand, 50 kilometres wide, and it's home to about 600 people. The first of these people was the Māori. I have a lot of respect for them because their whole culture was built around peace. Since then, the history has been very interesting but quite tragic. Today, people call themselves Chatham Island. The island itself is very low-lying and quite cleared. It's home to a few dozen lakes, ranging from very small ones to a massive tidal estuary that takes up most of the main island. It also has incredible fishing and a significant fishery, and contains quite a few unique species that are found nowhere else in the world. When you consider all this, you can understand why, when I got the opportunity to go and conduct a small field study on the island, I jumped at the chance. In particular, I was fascinated by those lakes. They're very, very diverse. Even when they're only a few hundred meters apart, they look completely different. The water quality is completely different and they have very different species. So I wanted to figure out a bit why that was the case. To do so, I decided to look at top-down and bottom-up controls in those lakes. Top-down and bottom-up control is an ecological theory by which the species at the very top and at the very bottom of the food chain have an outsized effect on the whole ecosystem, what species are there and how many of those species are present. For the apex predator, I decided to look at the short fin and long fin eels, or tuna as they're known locally. They're mainly piscivores, meaning they eat fish, but they do eat some insects as well, and they're found in roughly half of the lakes. At the bottom of the food chain, I decided to look at tiny phytoplankton. These microscopic plants are suspended in the water column and they provide food for a whole ecosystem built upon them. However, they are also prone to algal blooms, which can wipe out all life in that ecosystem. To measure the relative effects of these two factors, we did a surveying of invertebrates, think insects, both in the water column as zooplankton and on the bottom. And we counted both the number of species we found and the total number of individuals we found. We sampled 8 lakes in total. Around half of them had eels, half of them didn't, and we measured chlorophyll A or phytoplankton in each lake, and then compared this to the abundance and diversity of the invertebrates. Our results were a bit limited, mainly just because our study was a bit small, but we still did see a few things. The presence of eels was correlated to an increase in the number of invertebrate species present. This is evidence of classic top-down control, so something like the eels are eating planktivorous fish, and because they're controlling fish numbers, it means there's more invertebrates. Also, what can happen is a top predator prevents any one species from becoming too successful and means more different species can live in an ecosystem. This is really important because more diversity and more species in the ecosystem makes it more resilient and means it's more likely to be able to cope with threats like climate change or invasive species. The second thing we saw was that an increase in phytoplankton was actually correlated with a decrease in the number of invertebrates, particularly on the bottom. This seems a little counterintuitive at first, but the thing to remember is that phytoplankton expire at night. While they produce oxygen during the day, at night they actually use up oxygen and release carbon dioxide. If there is enough phytoplankton, all the oxygen in the water will be used up, and other life suffocates. This is concerning as phytoplankton growth is normally limited by phosphorus. In Chatham Island lakes, however, phosphorus is abundant and growth is instead limited by nitrogen. All this means that any increase in nitrogen, which is often associated with land use, could cause massive algal blooms that could devastate life in these lakes. Fortunately, solutions to this problem do exist. The two solutions relevant to the Chathams would be fencing off the lake areas and the surrounding catchments to stock. This would prevent trampling around the lake edges, effluents runoff, and it would also promote the growth of riparian vegetation around the lake, which can then absorb nitrogen and stop it before it enters the system. The second solution is controlling wastewater from human habitation, and this just comes through good wastewater management practices and being aware of where wastewater is seeping into. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something from it. This study was part of the reason I went to Chatham Island. The other reasons looked a little something like this.
Yep, we're on. Lots of good fish. That's a really good fish. A absolute monster of a blue moki. Hello, you're going to be on YouTube. You're my dog friend for this episode. We always try and meet a dog friend, don't we? Let's go, we caught a fish. One dick. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Jesus, what is this? What is this?
And yeah, if you want to see some more of that, go check out Ronan's podcast on YouTube. Peace.
It's inside of you, it's inside of me, floating to memory where it all began from my ancestry.
The second thing we found was that I'll get there one day. The second thing we found was that an increase in primary production, an increase in phytoplankton, actually led to a decrease in the number of invertebrates. Fucking hell, I thought I had it that time. The second thing we found was that an increase in the abundance of phytoplankton actually led to a decrease in the number of invertebrates that we found.